always been a big fan of the cold open. And just start rocking and rolling with this bad boy. I even got my brand new Unreal Luminate shirt on for you today.
Oh my good golly. Yeah, look at that merch. We're already selling merch. Luminate Bank merch.
Right,
let's give it a roll.
We got these for our sales summit last week or 2 weeks ago. So very comfy and very excited to be here.
How did it go? Like, what was what is the Luminate Summit all about?
You know, it's a few different things. For me, I think the coolest part about the whole thing is just to be able to
sales, and you can give me the what it is, yeah.
Right? Is to just kind of like kiss the babies of like just shake hands and see everyone from our company, because our company is nationwide. Right? We have loan officers in every state in the country. We have like over 800 something total employees at Luminate Bank at this point. So it's just, for me, it's a really cool opportunity to shake hands, talk face to face with people that I work with and I interact with on a daily basis, but all of that interaction is electronic or via email, right? And so for me, I think that's my favorite part of the whole thing. But as in any sales position, we have some really high-end motivational type speakers, keynote speakers as they would be called, because they're not all, I would say, technically motivational. So we had somebody that came in that was like a really high coach. Kobe Bryant, coach Kevin Durant was a really, really high level basketball guy, and then kind of realized that the mindset is just the most important thing for anything you're going to do in life, whether it's sports, whether it's business, whether it's trying to improve your personal life. A lot of it all comes back to mindset, right? And so his whole thing was just kind of about mindset, and it was really, really, really good talk. We have another person that came in and kind of taught us about communication, right? And you and I have had those conversations a lot of times about communication. I know you're a big, nonverbal communicator. When I took the trip to the Philippines, there was a lot of communication using eyebrows, right? Things like that. And so just knowing that different people communicate differently and being open to that and picking up signs. So yeah, just a lot of different opportunities. And then also we do some things called breakout sessions that were some opportunities for us as loan officers to kind of become more comfortable with some more niche products. I know we're going to probably talk about at least one of those today in our conversation. So just kind of like the product specialists from the company kind of set aside in a little conference room, and then we had time periods to go and sit and really get even more of a deep dive and answer some of those questions that's like, it's easier to ask when you're in a room full of the other loan officers that all have the same questions, right? So very, very useful. And of course, it's a good time to bond with your team and your company.
What was like your favorite lesson that you learned for on the mindset bit?
I think for the mindset bit, I think it was just constantly every single morning trying to start your day with that positive mindset, right? Like I know me, one of my biggest things is a lot of times I let how I feel when I wake up dictate how I'm going to feel the rest of the day, right? If I didn't sleep all that well, not feeling all that great, couldn't turn off the PlayStation the night before and stayed up later than I planned, I just let that first fleeting thought that comes into your head of, oh, today's going to be a great day, or man, I do not feel like, because let's face it, more mornings than not, I would assume most people wake up with, all right, gotta do another day today, right? And so like even just something as simple as starting your day with verbally saying out loud, putting a smile on your face and saying today's going to be a good day, like just 1,000%. That practice goes a long way.
Yeah, well, I've been like I'm a bit of a news junkie. I was like a poli-sci kid in college, and that's like what I studied for a long, long time. So with all the stuff going on, it's tough to not want to stay informed. At the same time, I think there's a certain amount that, especially because for our industries, politics, whether we like it or not, in certain ways does affect our job, particularly the economy. And so
right.
I do think it's important for us to kind of keep posted on that so we can better advise clients on that. But it's really funny. Like a couple of weeks ago, because I'm doing a musical right now. I'm sure people know.
Shout out Cinderella.
Yep, shout out Cinderella at the
Rail.
Messiah Glory Players. Let's go. But the like in warming up for any of the shows, like I just like listen to more like musical theater stuff in the car, and I've actually like noticed like how much better my mindset is after doing some of that, even though it's like I have a really, really crushing news addiction on that. But it's been cool to see like my mood adjust there too. So
for sure. And you and I talk always, you know, we talk more often than most people in my life. You know what I mean? We between work and friendship, we're always chatting, and it's you and I constantly talk about the balance of, like you just said, needing to stay informed in order to provide the best information, the most accurate, timely information to our clients, but also just with how overwhelming the world itself can just feel at times, right? And that comes down to social media, news, whatever it is, right? And like I know me personally, I have felt like I've taken, and it hasn't even really been conscious, kind of an unconscious step back from social media stuff. I mean, I'm sure you've seen I haven't been posting on, say, Facebook as consistently as I was before, but it's crazy how much of a positive mindset not sometimes participating in that for a little bit of time can actually have for you. And so, yeah, that mindset stuff it's key. And you know me, I'm always a positive person anyway. So yeah, just kind of reinforcing that positivity is always a good thing.
Well, yeah, like I think I've actually talked about this on a couple of the other videos here too, just on social media and like what is that in real estate at this point too? What like as far as like getting after authenticity versus like the manufactured authenticity, what are we showing, what are we doing, like, and like what that is in business, and how much of that do we want to make it entertaining and goof around, and how much of it is actually providing the real ass information that people need. So it's like it's a balance, and that comes with like using creativity and keeping yourself informed. So yeah, no, it's the communication pieces and stuff that you learned at the Luminate Summit. Luminate Summit, is that what we're calling it?
Yep, exactly.
Perfect. Yeah, the lessons that you learned at the Luminate Summit and everything seemed cool and appropriate, whatever. For all this
definitely, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it was a really, really good time. Things went great, but I am now kind of ready to get back to the grind, as they say, and had that little vacation, and so it's exciting to took those few days for the summit, took a few days for vacation, and it's spring market, man. We're rocking and rolling. So yeah, it's been fun to get back into it.
I've been, I'm curious to get your insights on that. I mean, like, yeah, why not just jump into it? After I say, hey guys, this is Billy Anstett with Luminate Bank / Luminate Home Loans. He is, I know we're already 8 minutes in, but why not do the introduction at this point here too? I've worked with Billy for a long, long time. For those of you guys who've never met him, he's helped out a bunch of my clients, friends, family, the whole get. And I've worked with him for a long time because he is, first of all, he's just he's a doer. He gets a lot of stuff done, and I am usually pretty well the nice one, I would say. And Billy is absolutely the nice one, but he can be a very, very fierce loan officer and lender when we need to make stuff happen. And it's always fun when the good cop, bad cop switches in the middle of negotiations, where like that's come in really, really handy to have someone who is there and really takes the direction from myself as the agent, which is extremely helpful. So, which is why I've worked with him for so long, and he helps like a ton of my clients out in really, really great ways. So, Billy, thanks for joining on whatever this is. So
yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm excited. I know we've been talking about doing this, and I'm glad that we're finally kind of getting together, and hopefully we can make it more of a regular thing and keep people informed with products and what's going on in the market and everything like that. And yet, just kind of to jump into it, it is spring market, right? I know you can probably elaborate more, but I always kind of say when I'm just talking with my clients, generally speaking, it's easier to sell a house when the grass is green, there's leaves on the trees, and the flowers are blooming, compared to when everything is just that gray, white, brown wash, right? And so generally this is the busier time of year just in the market we live in, right? In the Twin Cities area. we're always going to be busier as the weather gets nicer. Not many people like to go out and look at houses when it's -50, right? So that's just a natural thing. And where we're seeing a lot of uniqueness this year is the market kind of rebounding from where we've been over the last couple of years is really coinciding with our spring market. So I think it's one of those rare times where it's both a buyer's and seller's market, right? We always use like this, is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Well, as rates have come
balanced.
down,
I mean, like it's pure and simple, like,
and that's a good place to be, right? As for what we do for a living, it's you're getting a good deal on the buy side and you're getting a good value for your home on the sell side right now. And so really, really good time for that. From an interest rate standpoint, about 2.5 weeks ago, we hit, the lowest point in interest rates basically since the end of COVID. And
which
so
what
so
number
I would say about 5.99% on average. I mean, depending on the client, we were seeing them lower than that, right? We've been seeing some people in the 5.5 to 5.875% range. Also still been seeing, depending on the product and the scenario, in the low sixes, right? So it all kind of depends. There's always a spread there. What I always like to educate people on is, when you see stuff on the news, when you're seeing, here's what mortgage rates are down to, always got to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, because a lot of times that's going to be quoting stuff that involve discount points or first-time home buyer benefits or different things like that. And it may not always necessarily be applicable to you. And you and I have worked together long enough to know, even though it doesn't take rocket scientists to do this job, there are differences from every individual person's scenario. And that's where having a team like us that takes the time to figure out your uniqueness really, really can help get us into the product and the best deal possible for you.
Oh, for sure. And like this is like the big pitch I make to everyone here is that so people are aware, like this is especially for folks who recall the 2008 kind of financial crisis. Like Billy and I, we don't own a business together. We don't own anything like any of that stuff. Like everything is very, very separate. And the reason why, or like the way we kind of operate as far as like referrals and all that, like there's a lot of buyers out there who may come with a lender and I'll toss Billy's name out there as well if they want just a second opinion. But there's no contractual obligation to use Billy by any stretch of the imagination. And it's the same thing where Billy has folks who come in and he's their lender, but they don't necessarily have a realtor or may already be working with a realtor there. Like there's no real incentive to work with one another other than familiarity with each other's processes and the standards of work that we go to, which is like pretty much my case with everyone, that it's the treadmill to get stuff going with clients and with any sort of deals. That's where like the bond and understanding comes in. And for those who are checking this stuff out, the main things that we're going to hit on is I more or less there's like a listing that I have right now it's a really cool townhome / condo-ish building. It's an interesting one. But we are going to take a look at like what a pre-approval looks like in there and the way those numbers can be adjusted depending on what your financial situation is, which is the main reason why I can never tell you how much a home is going to be like as far as like your back end. That's not my thing. I look at the house, I tell you how much like that home is worth. Billy's the money guy and tells you how much how much your money is going to cost to borrow if you're taking out a loan, which
100%.
is extremely helpful. So just want people to know like what sorts of options they have available for them, because not only is it like the literal numbers that you can adjust, but there are certain programs and products in the way that lending works that I think Billy will be able to spell out for us here too. So
yeah, and so like one of the cool things that we'll do here is I'll share my screen here in just a moment, but we'll kind of go through like some baseline numbers, and then like one of the big things that I'm seeing right now, we were kind of talking at the beginning of this that I'm going to kind of start with looking at this from a first-time home buyer perspective, because it is a really great first-time home buyer property, right?
Oh, 100%,
and like right now,
it's like
we're
$209K for anyone who's curious. $209,000. Like this is like a prime first-time home buyer product, but also like a downsizer thing. There's like a lot of different people. But you were saying, Billy, yeah, like a first
Yeah.
time
So
yeah.
you know, the state of Minnesota where we live has the best down payment assistance out of any state that I've been able to do my research on in the United States. And but one of the big things that I'm seeing right now is there's a pretty big gap between the interest rate you qualify for with the down payment assistance program and a pretty big difference between what we're not going to see or what we see if we don't do that down payment assistance program, right? So we'll kind of go through the differences between what that looks like on a monthly payment, what it looks like over the life of the loan too, and all the, you know, all that kind of fun stuff. Are you cool with me kind of just jumping into it and starting to share a couple of things?
Yeah, I mean, hey, like real quick, could I show the context of this house first here?
Yes, please do. Please do. Yes, let's start there.
Yeah. So, because let's show you guys this place. So this is 4245 Centerville Road in Vadnais Heights. So here's kind of the cool thing about this property is that it is so it's a townhome. I'll show you the exterior here. So it's like this is the outside. You know, because that's a realtor's job is to tell you what's indoors and what's outdoors. But like the way this one is laid out is that we actually go upstairs here and you have this entire upper level. But you have your own private little entrance right here on the door side there. And then this particular seller expanded the deck entirely. So despite it being like an upper level townhome, the big bit of it is that there is a chairlift, which is what the seller had installed here. So this type of place with the chairlift installed is kind of one of those perfect properties for someone who's like looking to downsize. It could be mom, dad, parents, or anything like that. But for someone to go into that. But I also think there's just a really, really big mobility piece to it generally that, you know, you don't have to be an elderly person to grab this place, but you can sort like just anyone who has like a kid who is having some mobility issues or anything like that. Because it's like the washer dryer, all that stuff is on the top floor, main level, and it's just a really, really cool property. So I mean, I got a plug for my sellers here. If anyone knows a buyer or like someone who's like looking to purchase a home, either their parents or something like that is like some mobility issues who are not quite at a wheelchair point, I think this is a really, really good one, and would love for you guys to share this one across the board if you guys see it. So anyway, that's I got to do my quick plug and everything for my sellers. But Billy, how can people afford this property today? How many easy payments is this one going to take?
Well, it's generally we're going to be doing a 30-year mortgage, so it's always going to be, you know, as simple as 360 payments, right? Always about as straightforward as that. We can obviously do lesser terms, right? But let's start here. Let me pull this up here because I just wanted to look at one thing because a lot of time, you know, I think this is a good opportunity for us to, you know, kind of look at. So we're using the word condo and townhome, right? And I know you and I are gonna do a full presentation on this here in the very, very near future. But I think this is a really
full debate on this yesterday.
So like a lot of times, you know, it maybe look like a townhome and the description of it may be, you know, the townhome in the townhomes at townhome.com, right? Like everything about it can be townhome, but ultimately it's going to come down to the legal description. So have you done the legal description? Do you know, Jesse, if this one is listed technically as a condo or a townhome?
This one is listed I believe it is listed as a townhome, as a matter of fact, but I haven't looked at the
Yeah, so when I'm looking at the legal description, I see a condo number associated with it, which generally is going to tell me that it is going to technically be a condo. And we are going to probably need that separate condo approval, right?
Sure.
Now that's just kind of doing a very, very quick glance. But the reason why we do that is for this exact reason, because when we're looking to buy condos / townhomes, if it's legal description as a condo, there is some extra hoops we have to jump through, right? And having a team in place that has dealt with this on multiple occasions, right? And even like this particular property, the legal description itself is a little bit vague. It's not the most straightforward legal description. So it does leave a little bit of area, a little bit of gray area there, right? And so that's why, again, kind of going through this, having this conversation, I think is a big win. So let me share my screen here so we can look at a couple of things. We are going to start off by, I'm just going to share my window. So you're going to see a little bit behind the scenes here when I first pop this up. So you're seeing all my fun icons. So this is kind of the first thing that I'm looking at, right? So the first thing we do is we're going to look up the property. We want to go see what the property taxes are for this bad boy, right? So we're on the Ramsey County website. As a lender, this is literally generally going to be my very first stop. Someone is interested in the property.
Real quick.
Yep.
Pause. Do you have this on screen? Because I'm not seeing. I'm just basically seeing.
Oh, I am so sorry. Yeah, no, I thought that I should have it up, but thanks for jumping in there.
No
Let me
worries.
try this one more time. So let me go share screen. Yep, it probably would have helped if I would have selected the window to share. Now are we seeing it?
I am seeing your video screen. You are seeing what I'm seeing.
There we go. So if I minimize and pull this up, are you now seeing the Ramsey County page?
I am not.
Oh, well, let me try. I apologize for any technical difficulties, folks.
It's all good. I will. I'll cut this part out. I mean, this is why we're doing the recording instead, right?
Let me just try to do the actual tab for it. I'll just click on that. So now are you seeing that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're seeing the Ramsey County page and everything.
I believe so. All right.
Yeah,
and then go ahead and do a clean start.
Perfect. So yeah, as a lender, really the first thing that we're going to do, whether we're interested in offering on a property, whether it just comes to me out of the clear blue, hey, Billy, here's a purchase agreement. We're already under contract for this property. First thing I'm going to generally do is I'm going to go to the county website and I'm going to pull up all the specifics for this property, right? So as we can see here, one of the main things we're going to want to find out is what are the taxes on this bad boy. So as you can see here, 2026 taxes are $2,400. So that's going to be a note that we're going to want to, jot down. I already kind of have. I've already done my research on this one beforehand. But once we have that, that's now really when we can start getting a little bit more in depth with the actual numbers, right? So let me go ahead and share this screen with you here, so we can see really what this thing would look like on a monthly basis for us. So list price is $209,000. Okay. If we're a first-time home buyer and we do the minimum of a 3% down payment, our loan amount is going to be roughly $202,700. So that's how I come up with this initial loan amount. Does that make sense to you, Jesse?
It does.
Perfect. Now, as we already said, most people are going to look at doing a 30-year mortgage. If we want to do less than that, we can definitely do less than that. But standard, we're looking at doing that 30-year mortgage, okay? Right now, like I said, interest rates are right about at that 5.99%. So that's what we have typed in for that interest rate. We went to the county website, and we already know what our taxes are going to be for 2026. So we have that typed in, $2,400. Now, again, I've been doing this for a long time. So for me at this purchase price, generally I would be estimating around about $2,700 for insurance, but we have an HOA on this property, which means that we're not going to have to pay as much for regular homeowners insurance. So if you buy just a regular single family home, your homeowner's insurance is going to cover the exterior, the roof, the siding, things like that. Also the interior, right? When we buy a condo or a townhome that has an HOA associated with it, a lot of times that HOA is going to cover the exterior of the property. So our homeowner's insurance only has to actually cover the inside of that property. So for this property, I would actually probably be estimating something closer to about $1,200 a year in our homeowner's insurance costs. Okay. Now, again, as a first-time home buyer, whether we do FHA or conventional, if we don't come in with a 20% down payment, we are going to have some mortgage insurance costs. So again, I'm going to estimate roughly about $1,000 a year, just under $100 a month. Depending on your credit score, loan program, things like that, that number could change a little bit. But I think this is a very good, safe estimate. And the HOA on this property was, again, I believe it was a 326 a month. So when we did the math on that, that came out to about $39.12 a year. So if I hit the calculate button, this is kind of what we'd be estimating our monthly payment to be on this property, $1,923. Now, what a lot of buyers, what they'll see if they just do a quick look online is they're really only going to a lot of times see principal and interest. Okay. And that can screw a lot of buyers up mentally, in the sense, if we look here, our interest and our principal is going to add up to just over $1,200. But that doesn't include our monthly taxes. That doesn't include our monthly insurance. That doesn't include our HOAs, everything like that. So when we do include all of that, we're actually looking at something closer to about $1,900 for this particular property. Now, we kind of spoke at the beginning. I am seeing right now a pretty big difference between the interest rate we're getting if we utilize down payment assistance and if we don't utilize down payment assistance. So when I took a look before we jumped on this call, the interest rate, if we utilize the down payment assistance, was actually going to be a little bit higher. So the first thing we're going to do here is let's look at our amortization, and let's scroll all the way down to the end of this loan, and let's see total what we'd be paying throughout the life of this loan. So 30-year mortgage, that would bring us down to $2,056. I know that's a long time out, but you'd see here that total number would be $234,000 at a 5.99% interest rate. Okay,
$234,000 in what?
In interest throughout the life of the loan, throughout the 30
So we're
years
paying
of the
for
loan.
twice as much for the home, more or less.
Basically, yes. That's how on the unfortunate side. That's
I think it's always fun to point out.
100%, right? It is very good to point out, but we're going to see how much of a difference just a small little change in interest will make to that, right? So, Jesse, did you jot that number down for us? You want me to go back and pop that up real quick?
We had 235.
230. Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure that you had that. So if we change that interest rate to 6.375, okay, now that's not that much of a difference, 0.375, 0.376% difference, okay? That is going to change that monthly payment up to about $1,975 a month, right? So monthly, not that much of a difference. Our payment's still in that $1,900 range. So a lot of people would be like, not that big of a difference. I don't really care. Well, let's go see how much of a difference it's going to have throughout the entire life of the loan, right? So again, we're going to scroll down to the very end of this bad boy, 2056. We're going to go down $252,000. So that's almost a $20,000 difference, just under a $20,000 difference in a 0.375 change in interest rate, right? So right now, if we, I'm kind of saying to clients, if we don't need to utilize down payment assistance, clearly we can see we're going to get a much better deal throughout the life of the loan by not utilizing that. But for a lot of first-time home buyers, that's the difference between being approved and not being approved, right? But that was kind of one of the things that I for sure wanted to kind of show at the differences in cost there, by utilizing that assistance and not utilizing that assistance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To clarify for down payment assistance as well, for those who are unfamiliar with the idea, what's not shown here quite yet are the actual closing costs that are associated with like purchasing a home. So like that's in Minnesota. What's the number right now? Because it went down, didn't it? For like
the amount you can get, so the amount available to you in the state of Minnesota is about $14,000 in down payment assistance is what we can get from the state of Minnesota. Now, I've already kind of spoken at the beginning. We're going to need roughly 3% as a minimum down payment as a first-time home buyer, right? So we'll do some simple math together here. We'll even pull out the calculator so we can all do it together. So, we're going to do 209,000. We're going to multiply that by 0.03, right? That's going to get us to that number right about there. I don't know if that popped up, but $6,270 for our minimum down payment on this property. right? Go ahead. Do you want to jump in there, Jesse?
No, I was just kind of following along.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So closing costs are generally going to be roughly double our down payment, right? So they're usually going to be another 3 to 4% of the purchase price of the home. So, if we double this number from 6,000 to 12,000 for this particular property, we're going to need, say, $12 to $13,000 in out-of-pocket expense. Well, the state of Minnesota can cover $14,000 in out-of-pocket expense, right? So the state of Minnesota can actually cover more than what we would need for this property. Now, the state is going to require us for you, the buyer, to have some of your own financial investment in this transaction, right? So you, the buyer, are going to have to come out of pocket the minimum of $1,000 yourself. So, between just having $1,000 of your own money, the state of Minnesota can cover the rest of your out-of-pocket expense on this property, right? Now, we see we're getting a slightly higher interest rate, but for, again, a lot of first-time home buyers, they're not going to have $10,000 or $15,000 saved up, but a lot of them don't have $1,000.
Well, this is actually the big part that I wanted to jump in on, because it's cool. So let's recall the buyer that we're actually talking about here too. This is a first-time home buyer. If you're a first-time home buyer, either you are living at home with your parents, which is, like, honestly good, save your money, do what you got to do for all that. But if you're not staying, staying somewhere for basically free, you're likely renting at that point. And so if we were to take, so if you are paying, $1,800 a month, for, like, between you and a partner, or like that's just what you're paying a month for your monthly payment, multiply that out by 12.
Right.
Which, just by 10, that's $18,000 itself. The difference that we showed earlier in the price between using down payment assistance at the higher interest rate versus not using down payment assistance was about $17,000. So my big point is that even though it costs you more money to do the down payment assistance, if you don't need it, take the cheaper deal. But I think there's especially if you're able to purchase earlier, 1 year earlier, you're actually already saving that money over the course of the 30 years by just getting into the place. And for people who just want a quick refresher course on why we pay for real estate, or why it's viewed as an investment, it's because you got to live somewhere regardless, is the main thing. And they're not building any more land at this point, but so you can lock onto that and grow with it. There are expenses associated with purchasing a home, but if you're going to be living somewhere anyway, why not get something back in return that is at a more stable cost for the next 30 years? Because 30 years, we're assuming inflation is going to occur. We all know what inflation is. So if you're able to lock in a payment close to 30 years and you make more money down the road, that's where the real savings comes in, because this is, other than what insurance or taxes are going to be, that 1975 you're seeing up there, that's going to be the same dollar amount you should be paying realistically for the next 30 years per month. So
for sure.
And
the way
that,
right, exactly. And the way that I always say, Jesse, is if you're paying rent, you're paying a mortgage. You're just paying somebody else's mortgage for them, right? Versus you paying your own. And I just did, again, before we jumped on this, I did as much little kind of research to be as prepared as possible. And, so this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this property is a 2-bedroom unit. Is that correct?
That's right.
So the average rent in the Twin Cities area on a 2-bedroom unit is going to come in between $1,600 and $1,800, right? So this particular property, you're literally paying the same amount of money on a monthly basis to own this thing as you would to rent a comparable property almost anywhere in the metro area. So it's really
in the Twin Cities for sure.
Right. And then when we added the fact that you can get that $14,000 in assistance, you can literally own this place for the same amount you'd be paying rent, and it's only going to cost you $1,000 out of pocket. That, to me, is about as realistic of a possibility for anyone to own something that exists, right? Like there's not that many opportunities where you can pay the same amount to own something as to rent it, right? Like if you want to rent a car, you can maybe pay $75 a day, something like that. You want to own that car, you could have a loan for 70 years, right? There's not that many instances in life where owning and renting are going to cost the same. And for this particular property, now that's not always going to be the case if we wanted to buy a $500,000 house or a $700,000 house. But for this particular property at this price point, with where rates are right now and the options that are available to you as a buyer, I mean, this is just as good of a deal as literally a human being can get buying a house.
Absolutely. That's the biggest biggest part of it. So, yeah, man. Well, one other point of this too is that there aren't any rental restrictions on this. So can we, if someone wasn't a first time home buyer, can we just look at that scenario as well? Like, let's say someone
100%.
has the 20% down payment. What could they expect their monthly payment to look like? Or
yeah, really good question. Really good question. So we'll go back up here, right? We'll do some basic math together. So again, let's say we were going to do that 20% down, right? So 20% of 209,000 is going to be $41,000. Okay, so it's actually going to be a little over 41,800. For the sake of our conversation, let's just round that up to 42,000. Okay, so we can use some nice round numbers. So if we did 209,000 minus $42,000, our loan amount would end up being $167,000. Okay, now interest rate, again, we'd probably be, if we're not doing down payment assistance, if we are buying, it all kind of depends upon whether we're buying it as an investment or an investment property or anything like that. But we'll keep that rated about that average 5.99%, right? Taxes are going to stay the exact same throughout the year. Homeowners insurance is going to stay the exact same throughout the year. If we do 20% down, we're going to have no mortgage insurance. So we'll go ahead and delete that. Oh, actually, it's going to make me type in a 0. So now let's go ahead and hit calculate. Looks like 1626 would be what we'd be looking at if we were able to come in with about a 20% down payment on this particular property.
Cool. Do you want to show me the interest of the life of the loan?
Yeah, 100%. So let's take a look at that amortization. And then, as we just kind of said, when we were kind of doing our research, average rent for a 2-unit in the Twin Cities area is $1,600 to $1,800, right? So you theoretically you could be showing cash flow on that bad boy from day one, right?
Pretty quickly.
Total interest on that would be $193,000.
Cool. That puts us at what was it, 235 before, and then 250 on the other scenario?
Yes, exactly. So a $60,000 difference in interest.
Yep. So $60,000 over the course of 30 years. That's going to give you $2,000? $2,000 a year?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah, really good options. And yeah, like you said, for an investment standpoint, I think this could be a really, really great opportunity for somebody. Because like you said, you'd be able to basically have your mortgage paid for, if not, start cash flow day one.
For sure. What would it look like? You were making a distinction a minute ago. So 20% down payment, is there some difference in calculation you're going to make for investment versus live-in?
Yeah, you're generally, if you're buying it as an investment property, we are generally going to see a higher interest rate on investment properties than on a primary residence, right? So, maybe let's change that back up to that 6.375, right? Probably pretty close to where we'd be seeing if we were to do that in the investment side of things. Again, we're still in the $1,600 a month for monthly payment, and throughout the life of the loan here. Let's take a quick look and see where we'd be at. Oops, sorry, I'm scrolling a little bit too quickly there. My mouse is working fast. We'd be at about $208,000, so about a $16,000 difference throughout 30 years. So about $500 roughly a month difference between investment and single family, and primary residence.
Love it. Cool. All right. Well, that's pretty helpful, especially because this is a fun, unique property for folks, whoever wanted to make it home, etc. Well, let's close it out. Billy, what's what sorts of takeaways would you like any listeners or viewers here to take away from you? Got any words of wisdom for folks? Plugs?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the sense of, being able to talk to you, figure out what's important to you may not be important to me, right? Or may not be important to Jesse. But at the end of the day, it's your transaction. So what's important to me and what's important to Jesse isn't the prerogative. The prerogative is what's important to you, right? And so, just because you can on paper afford a monthly payment according to the federal government doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be comfortable with that monthly payment, right? And so just taking the time to really kind of figure out what's important to you, what you want to emphasize in this transaction, and then being able to, as you can see, kind of tailor the dollars behind it, the money part of it, to your individual scenario. That's really what I specialize in doing, right? And like Jesse said, I'm a worker. I like to get things done, but I also like to figure out things that other people maybe can't get figured out, right? And so I always kind of say there's a product for every situation out there. I know when we were hopefully in some of these future calls, we'll be able to talk more about some unique product options that we have for clients. But I always say, give me a phone call. Let's talk about what your goals are. And then we can go over what all of our options are to accomplish those goals, right? What products are available to you? What options do we have out there? And then let's just work together to accomplish those goals. That's what I am. I'm a person that's here to assist you accomplish your goals, specifically when it comes to any type of owning a home.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Billy, thanks for joining us today. And we'll move along. Can't wait to talk to you soon, sir.
Yeah, look forward to the next one, Jesse. Appreciate you.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you this in the main podcast here, but I kind of want to get you on a quick little take here, Billy. What's going to happen to interest rates now that we have a war going on? What's happening?
For sure. So now that the recording is going on, I'm going to for sure preface with, if I knew for a fact what rates we're going to do, I would be making a lot more money doing a different job. I always say that, right? So I don't know for a fact what's going to happen, but
get your crystal ball out. Come on, I want read some tea leaves for me. Yeah.
Historically, when something like this happens, some sort of a military conflict, right? I don't even have to say military, but a geopolitical issue that creates uncertainty, right? Generally, what you're going to see is an initial shock to the market. That's usually negative. And that's what we've seen over the last week and a half to 2 weeks, right? Rates bottomed out, hit the lowest point they've been in 3.5 or something years. And then all of a sudden, people started talking and making decisions, and bombs started dropping, and rates went right back up. Okay. So that's normal. When you see something like that happen, for the market to adjust like that is normal. Historically, what we've seen is, as the market remains unstable, larger scale investors don't like instability, right? They want that investment line to kind of steadily keep going up and not being the big ups and downs. So a lot of times what they're going to do is in these times of uncertainty, they're going to shift investments or portions of investments from riskier products or options to less risky. And one of the least risky things is bonds, right? Federal bonds, about as safe of an investment. Now, you're not going to usually make a huge return on that, but your return's usually always going to be super steady. When we see more people buying bonds, that's when we see mortgage rates go down, right? It's the bonds that dictate mortgage rates, not necessarily the stock market. So as we see the stock market go up and down, we see rates go up and down, but that correlation more has to do with whether people are buying and selling bonds, federal bonds. And when we're seeing a lot of uncertainty and unstable things happening in the market, we usually see a little bit more shift to bonds. So I do think that we're going to see rates probably kind of plateau here a little bit and then start to trickle back down. I don't think that rates, whether it's in the next month or the next year to 3 years, I don't think they're going to get that much lower than where we were at a couple weeks ago. Like I said, we got down to
5.99. That's kind of what I'm
5.99. I think the Fed's target is about 5.5. That's me again, kind of trying to read their crystal ball, read between the lines. I think that's where they would like them to be. And I think that's a really good balancing act between making mortgages and the money you need to buy the home affordable without making it so affordable that too many people want to buy and home prices adversely go up. That's what we ran into during COVID. And as much as I loved refinancing people and rates at 2.875 or 3.5, and everyone was buying, we both saw home prices went up, and they went up, in my opinion, I think they went up too fast, right? And
Substantially, absolutely.
5 years ago when we started doing this, Jesse, that with that down payment assistance, we were able to get first-time home buyers into home for only a couple $1,000s out of pocket. We haven't been seeing that as steady lately, and that's just because that first-time home buyer $250,000 option, it just is so few and far between compared to what it was before those rates bottomed out, right? You could get a nice starter house in the Twin Cities for $250 before rates hit 3%. And as soon as they did, that $250 house jumped up to $350, and now the numbers don't make as much sense. So again, going back to the start of our recording, it's why this property we talked about today is such a huge opportunity for somebody out there, for sure.
That's awesome. Anyway, cool. Just wanted to throw the recording on for that because I think it's always kind
Perfect.
of fun to catch that stuff. So